From the 1950s to the 1970s, a powerful movement took hold in the United States. People fought for their rights to be treated as equals, something as simple as being allowed to sit wherever they wanted and not going to jail because of their choice. When a movement happens, beliefs and emotions are expressed in a variety of ways. Some write, some lead, others make art. Many of the artists we talk about have connected their piece to a specific part of the civil rights and Black Power movement, and the words they drew years ago can still be heard today. David Driscoll was awakened by the death of Emmett Till, saying this crime awakened in most African Americans a sense of rage that helped prepare us for the revolutionary journey to fight for justice and equality that we would eventually take. He painted Behold Thy Son because he was well aware of the power of social commentary art and its use to stir the consciousness of a people. The painting connects to those who have suffered in order to save others. Driscoll shows the sacrifice of many young lives, from Christ to Till. Besides the labels colored in white, you cannot distinguish between the people in the cafe. Jacob Lawrence is showing the dehumanization of segregations for both sides. All people get hungry and need food. Appearances are superficial. Lawrence often used his art to explore race, equality, and justice. Charles Henry Alston was inspired by the bus boycotts in Montgomery and the determined actions of the woman who orchestrated it. Alston shows the inclusive rendition of the figures that form the backbone of the civil rights movement. He elevates the mundane act of walking to something monumental and heroic. At first look, there seems to be nothing distinct on this painting, but Norman Lewis paints a scary scene in Evening Rendezvous. The white paint depicts hooded figures of the Ku Klux Klan. The red areas depict the bonfires and flaming crosses. The blue paint suggests smoke above the raging fires. A field of red, white, and blue takes on an ironic meaning with the colors associated with the American flag. Lewis was often criticized for his abstract art, but he no longer thought that realistic depictions could help society's problems. He believed art should express the artist's feelings and vision. Lewis was deeply committed to the struggle for equality and rights, and he shows his fears caused by the KKK in his own unique style. To achieve this look, Sam Gilliam would water down acrylic paints and put them on canvases. As the paint soaked into the fabric, he would fold it up and leave it to dry. By titling this work April 4, Gilliam connects it to a specific time in history, Martin Luther King's assassination. The canvas is 9 feet tall and 15 feet wide. The rich stains bleed together to suggest the violence of the assassination and the trauma that followed. The pinks and yellows give the sense of hope that King inspired.
He's someone who has always sort of bucked the system in a way, intentionally and unintentionally, circumstantial and intentionally. And he's never been in the mainstream. He's never been accepted in the mainstream, largely because of who he was painting. The people he were painting, like William Corbett here, were not seen as exemplary individuals in society, and in the tumultuous sort of racial tension of the era in the 60s and 70s, these were fairly subversive paintings. This painting in particular is a pretty straightforward example of Barclay Hendricks' use of gold leafing to create this iconic figure and to create something that really looks like a religious icon, and to use that tradition to take people really from his contemporary context and put him in this elevated realm. It's not Kathleen Cleaver. It's not someone who is revered in society. It's an average, everyday person like us, and even in that era, beyond that, someone who's really been overlooked, and that's a lot of who Barclay gave representation to.
Everyone is fascinated by looking at another human being. There's something very intimate about the ways that people assume that by looking at certain parts of the portrait, they'll be able to understand who these people are, where they come from, and why they happen to be in this museum today. In my work, I try to slow down and see individuals. I'm standing on the shoulders of all of those artists who came before me. But here there's a space for a new way of seeing black and brown bodies all over the world. A New Republic is an exhibition that allows for every single moment within my career, all of the different acts, all of the different bodies of work to be seen. What you get is a diversity of experiences, a picture of what Black American kids are up to, a picture of what the global story is with regards to how young people adorn themselves and celebrate and fall in love. It's really interesting to be able to look through the history of some of the great portraits and to say, what is it about the trappings of empire and power that we can use in the 21st century? What does it look like to be graceful? What does it look like to be proud, noble? How do you look at a young Black man in American society? It's a very important question, especially at this moment in our culture. Black women have always been at the core of my thinking around portraiture. You see so many portraits where the male figure stands dominant at the forefront of the painting, and women and children and land are seen in equal measure as possessions. In my own work, the women are strident, they take the front, but there's also a sense of mystery. We don't really know who these women are. In some sense, what I'm trying to do is to come to terms with the ways in which Black American culture has been beamed out into the rest of the world.
Clearly inspired by Barclay L. Hendricks, Kehinde Wiley has managed to take Hendricks' concept a step further. He depicts people of color in everyday clothing, but in power stances that reflect old master paintings. He draws attention to questions of race, gender, and politics, and the lack of people of color in historical and cultural narratives. He brings to this idea that beauty can be found anywhere, all over the world. One just has to look past their surroundings, or in the case of Wiley's paintings, his elaborately designed backgrounds. Their clothes are associated with hip-hop culture and act as a sharp contrast to the colors of the background, bringing to light the beauty in their clothing and selves. Wiley often finds his subjects at random, usually by walking down the street. He invites them into his studio and lets them choose from a book of old master paintings which one they want him to recreate using them as a model. By doing this, he gives them control of how they are portrayed.